Hello and welcome to drzogdo. Just for a quick bio, I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I've been in the business since 1980 when I graduated from medical school. Come from a family of doctors. My grandfather was an osteopath. Two of his brothers were osteopaths. Two of his children were osteopaths, who was my father. One of them was my father. And two of my brothers are osteopaths. I wanted to be an electrician, but my parents said I had to be an osteopath, and I'm glad they made me do that, because I found a good life in medicine thus far. But a lot of my colleagues have not, and that's what this podcast is about. Today's podcast, is your doctor happy? Well, that's a good question, because I can pretty much tell you 75% of them are not happy. And why aren't they happy? Well, it's not your fault. It's actually, the fact is, the doctors have let everybody walk all over them over the past, really severely in the last 2 decades, but it's really been going on since I started practice. Basically, what the problem is that you don't have any autonomy. That means you can't use your own critical thinking skills and do what you think is best for the patient. You have to follow the cookbook. And in the cookbook, you have to maintain certain things. Like number one, we will profit the corporation in charge of us. Number two, we will work ridiculous hours seeing too many people. And number three, I just want to go home. This is getting to be burdensome. See, when you're a physician nowadays, you don't really interact with the patient that much. You pretty much look at your computer laptop and push buttons and look at them and get to know something about their life. Do you have a smoke detector in your house? Well, unless that has escaped them over the last 50 years, I think everybody pretty much has that. I don't worry about that particular question myself, because I got tired of it a long time ago and opted out to do my own thing, which apparently turned me into Maine's most dangerous osteopath, because I do what I want and practice good medicine. Anyway, when you are a physician and you're working for the man, which is now about 80% of physicians don't hang a shingle up like they did in the old days and open a practice, and you grew your practice by being available, having ability, and being affable. That's the triple A's. That's what I learned when I first started, and that darn formula worked great until the dead hand of the state, that would be actually the government, got involved too heavily with medicine, along with corporations, and then you throw the pharmaceutical companies on top of it, and you're being crushed. And also, as a doctor, you have to get on committees and have lots of meetings and have little sessions where you look at all the numbers and make sure that you're making enough money and giving enough flu shots or whatever is being pushed that week, or you're held accountable. I guess one of the good things is a lot of the doctors that are out now are not kind of the cowboys that started off back in 1980. The majority of my class were can-do, work hard kind of people. Nowadays, a lot of physicians are very concerned about family time off and all kinds of green new agendas, I guess. We're going to save the planet somehow or another, and maybe the whales, and change the orbit of the Earth somehow by our social concerns. But the people being attracted into medicine aren't the ones that used to be attracted into medicine, which I feel made better doctors in the past. What we're dealing with now, and I'm sure you hear it because I hear it every day, people ask me, where can I find a good doctor? And I'll tell them, listen, dude, I'm 67 years old. All my buddies are retired by now, or they're dead. And that's the truth. It's hard to find somebody I can send them to that actually is kind of old school, spend time talking to you, and someone you could really talk about other things other than doctoring, and get to a little rapport going, get some interest, some real life type stuff where sometimes a pat on the back and I'm really concerned about you, or I'll say a prayer for you, that goes a long way. Nowadays, that doesn't happen so much. But enough of the complaining. What are the good parts about the medical system right now? Well, doctors get paid a lot less, and they write a lot more drugs. I guess those aren't really that positive, are they? But they're not happy. I don't like to drive into work. Anyway, I know it sounds obtuse and some people think, you're a doctor, you're spoiled. Well, I'll tell you what you do when you want to become a doctor. At least back in the day, you actually worked. When I was a orthopedic resident, you'd start call at 7 in the morning on a Friday and you wouldn't get done till 7 in the morning on a Monday. That's like 72 hours of being in fight or flight all the time, because if you're in a busy program, you don't sleep pretty much, but that was part of the deal. Some people, when they don't sleep, make bad decisions apparently, and some people can kind of go through life making good decisions even while you're tired trying to help somebody, because getting out of bed and working all night is kind of a young man's game, a young woman's game. Got to be careful there. In a nutshell, everybody's too protected right now, in my opinion, but that's just what I think about it, and it doesn't really permeate the entire field. Oh, geez, what else am I upset about? Well, if you don't agree with the protocol that's in the cookbook that you got to give so-and-so a flu shot, even though you think, well, that flu's not going to be as bad as a shot, perhaps, you would get in trouble. And if you don't put so-and-so on one of these statin drugs, which, in my opinion, cause Alzheimer's, I wouldn't put my neighbor's ailing dog on a statin pill, personally. But that's why I'm the most dangerous osteopath in Maine, because I talk the truth. As far as getting an injection for something that's a media hyped, you gotta be careful here. Oh, I gotta watch this. If you don't think that the government has any business in telling me if I wanna work in a hospital to do my trade, that I can't unless I take an experimental injection. And that is forced upon every doctor in the state of Maine, along with the nurses and the military. I don't think the police had to do it, but that to me was enough to say, hey, I'm never working in a hospital again. I'm not naive. I was going to say something else. But not doing that can get you in big trouble. And also, if you, through the process of education, research, and the use of critical thinking, decide, well, I think I could probably treat that disease at home with a medication. And there are tons of literature stating the medication works very well. But if you write that medication, at least here in the state of Maine, the MD, that's the Medical Board of Maine, takes you to task and pulls your license out of your hand and tells you to go starve because you're doing something that we said you shouldn't. And the pharmaceutical industry doesn't like you to use that because it's cheap and it works. So you got to lose your license over that. There is a gal here in Maine after him to try to get her license back, but in the meantime, she's more or less flipped from being a doctor one-on-one to being a mass media doctor, to where she's now reaching tens and tens of thousands of people. So more power to her. Her name's Dr. Nass, N-A-S-S. Look her up. She's got a great website, and I will be cribbing a lot of her information in my talks in the future. How does your doctor feel? Well, in my experience, 75% of them are making plans to either retire, change jobs, or at least change locations. I don't know if you've noticed it, but doctors have become quite migratory. They get a little better deal over here in, say, Virginia, and I don't blame anybody who left Maine after they tried to force vaccinations down your throat and into your heart and your blood system. And DNA, maybe. Nonetheless, your doctor's health basically is not being cherished by the medical system. The problem is they are forcing you to do things that your conscience doesn't want you to do. So you're feeling unsettled. But I will tell you, having been in this community for 43 years, the old guys that haven't retired, we kind of have a little club where the saying is, we got to take care of each other. Scout's honor. You betcha. Well, I'm lucky. I've got problems and I get treatment. I get a nice conversation and a vote of confidence and stuff that I don't think is happening out there. Anyway, I guess that's enough of my whining about how doctors aren't as happy as they used to be. But I wish I could say there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but I do think it's getting worse because the pharmaceutical industry is now loaded up with billions and billions of dollars. They still get to advertise on TV like nowhere else in the world and ram their expensive crap down our throats. And I'm telling you one last thing about expensive. I know for them to make a pill like this, it costs maybe 20 cents, and they're gonna charge $20. They're gonna make a shot out of something that's all some kind of magic. If something actually does work and helps you, you're gonna pay through the nose for that. And I know for a fact, because I had to pay for a drug called Gleevec, which was manufactured for about $1 a pill, but they were charging $150 a pill. And my wife at the time had developed leukemia, and that was the only thing that was gonna save her life. That totaled $1 million just in that pill. And the only reason it cost that much is because it was on patent, and it was, in their mind at the pharmaceutical company, just like a thing called interferon, which is actually very expensive to make. So they said, well, it works better than interferon, so we're going to charge the same price as interferon. So it had nothing to do with, let's put it this way, goodwill at all. It was money, money. The country of India decided to make their own Gleevec because it's not that hard to make and it's cheap. And they said, you come and get us. We don't give a damn about your patent. We're giving this to our people because it actually saves lives. That created a huge problem for them. Lots of lawsuits. But you know what? India prevailed because that crap came off patent about 5 years ago and immediately dropped by thousands and thousands of percentage points. I think it's $2 or $3 a pill right now. So anyway, that's just another little rant, which I'll be famous for on this channel. Please follow Dr. Drzogdo, Maine's most dangerous osteopath. Thank you.